Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm really thrilled you're here because today we're tackling something that is absolutely vital, but honestly pretty complex. We are diving into the world of North Dakota Medicaid for 2026. Whether you're trying to map out your own future, maybe you're helping an aging parent, or you just want to crack the code on how healthcare coverage actually works in the state, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to break down the rules, look at the financial hurdles, and walk through the actual application process step by step.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The National Medicaid Unwinding. 2. North Dakota's unique rules. 3. The financial lookback. 4. How to apply. And 5. Where to find help.
Section 1. The National Medicaid Unwinding, specifically Medicaid redetermination. To really grasp what's going on in North Dakota right now, we kind of have to look at the massive shifts that just swept across the entire country. Let's start with a crazy number, 42.1%. Back in March of 2023, the Medicaid redetermination process was reinstated. Basically, millions of people suddenly had to prove they were still eligible for coverage. And it was rough. By May of 2023, the successful renewal rate plummeted to a shockingly low 42.1% nationally. This number perfectly captures just how high the stakes were. People were literally at risk of losing their healthcare purely because of administrative red tape. Obviously, states had to respond to that crisis, and fast. So they started leaning heavily into what are called ex parte renewals. That's really just a technical term for automated renewals, where the state uses databases they already have, like your tax records or SNAP data, to verify your income so you don't have to drown in paperwork. In March of 2023, only 26.5% of renewals were automated. But check this out. By July of 2024, that number successfully jumped to 55.3%. By leveraging data, states completely changed the game and kept millions of people enrolled with way less friction. Moving on to Section 2, North Dakota's unique rules and state-specific policies. Let's zoom in from the national picture and focus purely on North Dakota, because our state definitely does not follow the standard playbook. The most critical thing to understand is that North Dakota is a 209B state. I know, that is some seriously heavy bureaucratic jargon, but what it actually means for you is that the state operates on a medically needy spend-down model. So instead of a strict income limit that automatically blocks you from getting coverage, you can deduct your incurred medical bills, things like nursing home costs, your prescriptions, or Medicare premiums. You deduct those until your net income drops down to meet the state's required standard. And guys, this distinction is huge. In a lot of other places, what we call income cap states, if you make even a single dollar over the limit, you're forced to set up this complex legal vehicle called a Miller Trust just to hold that excess income. But in North Dakota, no Miller Trust required. You simply use the spend-down model to prove your medical expenses offset your income. It's a completely different pathway to getting eligible. North Dakota also plays by its own rules when it comes to your assets. When the Human Service Zone looks at your application, they are checking to ensure your countable assets fall below a very specific ceiling. For a single applicant here, you're allowed to keep up to $3,000 in assets. Now, to put that into perspective, the default federal limit used in most other states is just $2,000. And if you're a married couple applying, that North Dakota limit bumps up to $6,000. Here's another number you definitely want to keep in mind, $115. Once someone is actually approved for Medicaid and they're living in a nursing facility, generally speaking, all of their income has to go toward paying for their care. But you're allowed to keep a personal needs allowance for small day-to-day things. In North Dakota, that allowance is $115 per month. Not only is this higher than the federal minimum, but North Dakota actually adjusts this figure every year to keep up with inflation, which is a really nice protection to have. All right, Section 3, the financial lookback and asset review rules. Before you even think about applying, you've got to get your financial house in order. And that means separating your property into two mental buckets. The state is going to look at your countable assets. That's your checking and savings accounts, CDs, stocks, bonds, the cash value of any life insurance policies you hold. All of that counts toward that $3,000 limit we just talked about. On the flip side, you have exempt assets. These are protected. We're talking about things like your primary home, one vehicle, your household goods, and prepaid burial plans. Now you might be thinking, well, I'll just gift my savings to my kids so I qualify. Do not do that. The state reviews your financial history with a fine-tooth comb to prevent exactly that scenario. North Dakota has a very strict 60-month look-back window. They're going to pull 5 full years of your bank statements prior to your application date. If they spot any uncompensated asset transfers, like handing out a big cash gift or selling a house way below market value to a relative, it triggers a penalty period. And during that penalty period, Medicaid absolutely will not pay for your nursing facility care.
But what if you're married and only one of you needs nursing home care, while the other stays at home? For any married couples watching this, I want to reassure you. The system actually has robust spousal impoverishment protections. The spouse who stays at home, the community spouse, is legally allowed to hold on to up to $162,660 in countable assets. And that does not disqualify the spouse who needs care. Section 4. How to apply. Let's get into the step-by-step guide. So we've covered the policy, the income rules, and the asset tests. Let's make this actionable. Step 1, and this is absolutely crucial, is gathering your documents first. Bank statements, social security cards, tax assessments. Please don't skip this because missing paperwork is literally the #1 cause of delays. Once your pile is ready, you've got 3 main ways to file. Step 2 is going online through the self-service portal at apply.nd.gov. Step 3 is doing it in person. You can just take your documents right into the Human Service Zone office for your county. And Step 4, you can just pick up the phone and apply by calling the state directly at 1-800-472-2622. If you're someone who prefers doing things on paper, the exact form you are hunting for is the SFN 958. When you're filling this out for elderly and disabled Medicaid, pay close attention to the top of the document. You want to make sure you check the exact boxes for the assistance programs you're aiming for, like basic care assistance or Medicare savings programs, before you hand it over to your county office. Once you finally hit submit, you kind of need to manage your expectations on the timeline. There are federal limits on how long the state can take. For a standard long-term care application, processing takes up to 45 days. But if you're applying specifically on the basis of a disability, the state has up to 90 days to give you a decision. And remember, those are ceilings, not promises of speed. So the golden rule here is to apply as soon as you know you're going to need care. Finally, Section 5, where to find help, including resources and contacts. Look, filing these applications can feel super overwhelming, especially if you're trying to coordinate medical care at the same time. So let's quickly run through your lifelines. For general questions or to apply by phone, hit up the NDHHS hotline at 1-800-472-2622. If you need to submit documents or just want something in writing, shoot an email to applyforhelp@nd.gov. The online portal is apply.nd.gov. And if the worst happens and your application gets denied and you're staring down an appeal, I highly recommend checking out Legal Services of North Dakota at legalnd.org. They offer free legal aid if you qualify. So, what does this all mean for you? North Dakota genuinely offers some really robust pathways to Medicaid through that unique spend-down model and the higher asset limits. But that unforgiving 5-year review of your financial history leaves basically zero room for error. So I want to leave you with this one thought. Are you and your family financially prepared for the 60-month look-back? Because if the answer is no, or even if you just aren't sure, the time to start planning is right now. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.